This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the PPG Digimon Ultimate Cup that happened this past weekend. I think it's the last Ultimate Cup that we are having here in North America for the BT11 format, which is the modified ban list as well as the monocolor kind of rule for it too. But it was webcam, 512 players. It was streamed on Twitch with Max and Tyler doing the commentary for it, as well as I think it's going to be re-uploaded to their YouTube like they usually do it as well. So that is there. I don't have as much information about this event as usual. I was on the road this weekend, so do apologize for anything else I'm missing on that. But looked like it was a good event to kind of just end the format a little bit. And we do know that after this, we're going back to kind of regular BT11 events with the caveat that we do have one new banned card as well as the new kind of mulligan procedures standardized for future events for regionals and stuff. So that's kind of the idea. This kind of like a farewell event, I think, for this format. But I wanted to cover it. And again, thanks to PPG for publishing the list and running it as well. So going into this breakdown, I will also mention that there are kind of like a lot of decks that were in between like a Black War Greymon and a Dorbickmon list, just because of how the text kind of works. So how I did it for this breakdown is that the Dorbicks pretty much had either like the Black War Greymon package or just like the generic kind of package that we normally see for it. So that's kind of how I divvied it up. So there's Black War Greymon with Dorbick as kind of like a tech. We do have like Black War Greymon without Dorbickmon, and then we just have kind of straight Dorbickmon as well. So that's how we did it. If you guys think I should do it another way, let me know. But all these deck lists are going to be available to you as well, linked into Eggman events, which is in the description. So, but going into that, 5 Bloomlord, 4 Black War Greys, 2 Dorbicks, 2 Ulforce, a Yellow Hybrid, a Grandis, and an Alphamon. We're able to get into this top 16 today. So again, I think Bloomlord is definitely the best deck, at least the most popular deck into this format. It's very, very popular in that. And then we've been seeing more kind of develop. And when you know what the most popular deck is in the format, it means that you're able to make a deck and figure out what are the best counters to it. And I think some of these decks go for there. So we're going to go over all of the top placing lists by archetype. So we're going to go first into our first place list. So this is Alec Blanchet's first place, Dorbick Black War Gray. So kind of as I was saying before, this is definitely a Black War Gray list, but with the tech of the Dorbickmon. And this one definitely went like full hog into the tech for it. So there's 3 of the regular Dorbick for it, as well as 2 of the Bloomlordmon, which you can use with the idea that, you go into your Black War Greymon X, and then you have that body is out there, and then you can go into Dorbickmon, and then use Ragnalord with the Flamedramon to go into this with the end of in turn. Inheritable 2, which is really great, and this also has Blitz as well when digivolving. So you can end your turn, do the DNA, and then use the effect to attack with this, which is really strong. It's a really strong kind of combo to kind of end the game. Obviously, Dorbickmon just to be a way to, if you think of this as kind of like an option card that also plays a body when it gets a deletion. This card is also really good when you think of that, especially with everything there. Running 4 of this guy, well, we still can. Obviously, going to be down to 1 after events like this, so that's something to consider there. And in general, just a pretty strong standard list, I think, and it's just doing very, very well. So that is of this list here. Again, congrats to Alec for their finish there. And then we're kind of just going to go through like the changes. So like this is Dorbickmon as well. So this is what I was considering like just the more standard version of Dorbick, just kind of like the get a lot of security attacks and go tall and just kind of go very quick with it. So you just want to try to assemble as many pieces as you can, running quite a few rookies to help you do that. With the Digimon, you can get some extra draws, which is really nice. Running the Heroes of the Skies and the Fireballs just to get extra draw, tie for an extra security attack +1. And then we have the Volk, we have the Master Tyranno, and we have the security attack +1 Greymon. All these getting extra security attacks. So not being able to have like a dual attack in this deck is kind of does make a big difference for how we play and how the deck does, but it's still very strong. And this can, generally just do a lot of damage in one hit, and then your opponent's going to have a hard time kind of recovering from like that. So like the idea for that one there. I think the deck is again very strong for like the generically just standard package, since this is a really open deck list kind of idea for Dorbick. And we have that. And then we do have Shanyang. So this is kind of like Black War Greymon without any Dorbickmon as well. So this is just kind of finishing the trifecta of them. But this is kind of what we're normally seeing, especially in like almost like modern meta for BT11, just without having to run the Cool Boys and X antibodies because those are white. But going into this, I think a lot of people just kind of threw away Blackboard Greymon X as a deck for this format, including myself, because of the lack of X Antibody and Cool Boy. But it's still a really great deck. You still get to do a lot of things. And with how the X Antibody cards work, you just have to like do a hard devolution on top of your Blackboard Gray, but that's still very viable, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think that's a very, very kind of strong deck and archetype in its own right, too. So that's kind of the idea there. And I think the deck is very strong as it is. Hades Force is a very good card you can run. Honestly, like Metal Greymon is like just one of the best cards in the game. I think it's still being able to go up to it and de-digivolve. The Inheritable is very good. Everything about this card is fantastic. And the fact that if you can cheat into it, you can go off harder just means that that's one of the good reasons that Grey X got limited to 1 in that regard. So not much more to say about this one. Congrats to Sean on their finish there. Moving right along, we do have our second place list. So this is Larry's second place Yellow Hybrid. And Yellow Hybrid is probably one of the decks that I would consider running into this event if I was running in. I really like Yellow Hybrid a lot, and I always feel kind of bad like how it kind of got like cut short a little bit with the limiting of Jet Sylphie. Sunrise Buster got limited to 1 as well, but this is still a really strong and obnoxious deck. And in general, there are a lot of decks that try to OTK, but I would say that this format is slower than generic BT11, and so being able to do that means that Yellow Hybrid is able to set up a little bit more. And honestly, if you have like 3 Tamers and all of them are gaining you memory, like this deck is just wins. Like there's like no interaction at the end because you're just able to do your hybrids and go in for game a lot of the time. So being able to kind of set up that board state is good. Being like the only kind of deck with more of a security control kind of focus is really nice. And like Lonky's great, Wyvern's Wrath great, Sunrise Buster as well as Holy Flame. All these are very good cards for what we do. And also Venusmon being able to just be a really good stall card I think is impactful too. You're not really missing out on anything in this deck with the mono yellow, not a lot. So I think it's a good call for what the meta is, and again, very strong and very obnoxious. So congrats again to Larry for their finish there. And next up we have Mario's third place Grandis, and Grandis is definitely a deck that it did get hit on the ban list for this one, since we can only have 1 copy of this Grand Kawagamon. But I think that just having the additional one from Star Deck 9 is really strong, and you can still go into this guy. Like it's very good for what it is, and being able to use the effect. Like you just have to have the Grand Kawagamon for it, so being able to get the end of attack is very strong for this one. But I think this is a deck that people have been trying a lot for this. It hasn't been seeing a lot of success, but it's definitely something that's very viable. And just, I don't know, like the chain's pretty standard too. Roachmon, one of that's cute, and I don't know. Also, 4 grand. Also, this is a pretty strong. I haven't seen the matches since again I was on the road for this one, but I can imagine this can kind of disrupt a lot of opponents. And if you're trying to play like a slower kind of build your stack and raising game, which I would imagine this deck is trying to do, this is really good for getting rid of a lot of targets that are maybe a little bit tricky for you to interact with, normally. So I think the deck is good, and congrats again to Mario for the finish. I think he did a deck profile on his channel as well, so make sure to check that out. Next up, we have James Lychee Hernaez with their 5th place Alphamon. And we know that he loves Alphamon, and this is not a deck that I would consider in this format in the slightest. But he always tends to prove me wrong and make stuff like that work. So you're obviously missing a lot in this deck. Cool Boy and X Antibody are 2 cards I think you would love to have still in this. You also only have 1 Duro Gray as well, but you still can do some kind of fun stuff with the lines and stuff. So just doing Dorbickmon, the Sunriseamon, which again James just loves this card. He really uses it at the full potential, I think, a lot of the time. And the Ryutamon, and then using the multiple stacks, and just having like I think a couple more of these X Antibody cards to be a little bit more consistent. For what it is. And then also the Greatamon I think is actually really nice. So when Digivolving, reveal top 3 cards, add 1 with Alphamon in its name, and then place 1 card with X Antibody under this card at the bottom of Evolution, which is great to get stuff underneath it, like an Oryukumon or Ryumon, or like any other pieces. But since this deck is just really good at inheritables, it's good. It also means that you get like to Digivolve for 1 less if you're able to use it with this, and you get a card from the Dorymon. And honestly, like again, like this is a format where there's not a lot of level 7s that you're able to use, and so having access to this card still is fantastic. You're able to do a lot of damage, and being able to extend your turns I think is very good as well. And with just how aggressive like 8 level 6s into 3 level 7s is very good. And I think, again, with it being slower, you are going to be slower yourself, but you're able to have more time to find your pieces. And I think this kind of helps out the deck a lot. So congrats again to James for their finish there. Next up, we have Gavin with Bloomlord. So I don't have a lot to say about Bloomlord, honestly. I think it's probably it's the most popular deck in this format. I think by and large, I don't think it's the best deck in the format necessarily, but I do think it's the deck that if you looked at this format and you saw what the restrictions were and what the benefits were, you're like, Bloomlord. It's easy. It's easy to make the deck because everything is already green in that way, and it's something that's very strong. And again, if we're slower, it means we can be able to set up our Hydramons. And sometimes I feel like if your opponent has like if they have like 2 Hydramons, I feel like I just lose the game, right? And it's just very strong in that way. We've been seeing Bloomlord do very well in the past couple weeks for these events too. I think Hidden Potential Discovered is definitely a card that needs to be set to 0 in this form. I think honestly, this is like the only card that I think is like super duper overtuned. This is like, especially with combination of Bloomlord, where you can Digivolve for free into a card that also gains memory, means that you just get free memory for getting this card, and you get to go up into a level 6, which is kind of silly for what it is. So that's the only card I would say. I've been saying this for a couple weeks, but I think this card needs to go, even in like regular BT11 format. I think it's whatever. It's been limited to 1 for a bit, and every time my opponent sees, I feel like I just lost the game still. So anyways, congrats to Gavin for their finish there, and we'll see if Bloomlord, when we go back to regular BT11, if it's still able to do some time. I'm thinking it should be, but we'll see how that goes. And to finish it off, we do have Brendan's 12th place Ulforce. And honestly, like Ulforce is another list that I think a lot of people, I think Bloomlord was one, I think Ulforce was another, where it's just like people are playing this deck in BT11 as it is, and it's a deck that really is already monocolor. So we're going to go into it, and it's going to be really interesting to see how what Ulforce going back into BT11, how it does. It wasn't doing super duper good, I would say, at least compared to some other decks when we were looking at the finals for at the end of this month or end of February, beginning of March. But it's a consistently good deck in the sense that if you're able to see your pieces, you just go off, right? Like there's not a lot of interaction at times, and it's definitely a deck that kind of benefits from the fact that security control doesn't really exist in this format either, so which is not going to be the truth when you go back to BT11, I think. But this is good. A lot of people are putting this Mirage Galgamon at 1, and I really do like this card. I've been seeing it more and more, honestly, and it's such a good effect of being able to gain memory whenever your opponent draws, which means that, and sometimes like people just forget to play around this or forget what this counts as for effects for this. So I think it's very good for what it is. Being able to do some burn damage is good, and just like a 5th copy of something of a level 6 to go into your chain and get like a top end, I think it's good there too. So we do also like the high speed plugin D for getting that jamming if needed, which doesn't seem to be the case, but jamming on this guy is just fantastic. And I think that's really all I want to say. This deck is fun. I really like Ulforce. We'll see if it does anything when we go back to BT11. I think it's going to be a little bit worse in that format, but we'll end up seeing what that's like. But that's going to be my breakdown for us today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Again, thank you to PPG for running the event and for publicizing the deck list. Make sure to check out their website as well as Eggman Events, which is linked in the description. And that is going to be it for me. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.